Adult University, where you take adult shit and cut it into kid-sized pieces. My name's Miss A, and today in Humanomics, we'll be doing something completely different by talking about the reality TV show Love's Blind. With that being said, let's get started, shall we? You know, they say art imitates life, but as it goes, reality TV very rarely imitates life, and specifically when it comes to love. But I found this show very engaging on multiple levels, because it basically, at least to my understanding, when I think back to, like, let's say Flavor of Love or Bachelor or any number of shows that have been out there when it comes to love, it has a specific goal in mind. And, well, it doesn't make a group of women turn into a bunch of backstabbing concubines. And it doesn't make men into man whores. And unlike Married at First Sight, which is a wonderful show in itself and has had successful couples, you know, I feel like at least you don't have to cash in all your chips and then work backwards to figure out whether or not it's really going to be something that you want to live with in terms of love. And like I said before, you don't find people swapping partners like they change underwear or engaging in intimacy without any real point to it. That off the bat makes it an amazing show. The road to everlasting romance is extremely hard, and shameless plug, my band member and I wrote a song called I Do, and it kind of talks about how we go about trying to find love and what the wedding day really means. But that is not about the wedding, it's about who you're getting committed to. So if you're interested, check it out. The link will be left in the description box below. But moving right along, I'm going to share my general thoughts on the show, and then I'm going to talk about each couple. Not in real detail, but just kind of like my analysis. My general takeaways of the relationship dynamics for each couple. First off, let me start off by saying that my first takeaway is that everybody has their own love code. It's this unique combination of things that can be explained and can't be explained that makes the person that they commit themselves to the one. So I think that in itself is unique. For some people, it's hearing a voice and having a couple of conversations and just knowing that this person is meant for you, such as in the case of Cameron. And sometimes it's more about whether or not you really know a person and you feel physically attracted to them, and there are components, attributes to the person, whether it be financial or spiritual or values that help you see that person as being the person that you want to go for. In the case of Jessica, she didn't quite get that. But in any case, whatever love code you have is unique to you, and none of it's wrong because it has to be right for you. So that was my first takeaway. My second takeaway is that I was really appreciative of the fact that these people were regular people. They weren't actors. They felt real and genuine. And that's not to say that other shows actually book for actors or what have you who happen to want love. But I was really glad that they found real people for this process. And I don't know who else showed up, but the couples seemed very genuine. And so let's just jump right in to the couples. So if you haven't watched the show, just really quickly, the pods are built. These people are talking, they can't see, they just take notes. And I don't know how long it was, maybe it was a couple of days or such, or maybe a week, but they had time to date each other and meet up again. I don't know if that was necessarily because they were paired up like that, or they just started to request that they keep dating the same person, or, you know, blindly. Anyways, once the man has decided that he wants to get engaged, he proposes through the wall, the woman accepts through the wall, and then they're allowed to see one another. When all the couples have coupled up, they get taken to a resort to spend time together, to really, you know, bring on the romance, whether that includes sex or if it's just like time spent together, there's quality time spent together. And then the couples are allowed to see one another and to see who they didn't pick, which also brings a whole new different dynamic to the show. Meanwhile, they haven't had communication with the outside world. It's just been about the process of finding their person all the way up to the time where they're at their vacation time together. And then they take the same couples, and because they're all they're from the same area, they get to live together in a setup of apartments, a neutral space, which I also appreciated too. I thought that was cool. A neutral space where each person gets to they live together, and then they get to see each other's lives, but not necessarily having to live in each other's spaces or what have you. And you know, through this process, then they are still evaluating whether they really want to get married to the person or not. And then it all, you know, comes to a boiling point of where are they going to get married, or are they going to say, no, you're not the one for me? Is love really blind? Start off with the first couple who actually didn't make it through the, let's say, quote unquote, honeymoon stage of the process where they were taken to the resort. And so this would be Carlton and Diamond. I'm not going to get into specifics of who they are. I'm just going to give my brief analysis of their dynamics. So it seemed like they were very into each other up until Carlton reveals that he has to tell Diamond a secret, and brings up a lot of emotion to him, I think, because of course he's scared that this secret is going to make her reject him. So, you know, she's trying to coax out of him. He's getting there, and then he reveals that he is bisexual. And, you know, it was clear that Diamond was taken aback. She wasn't expecting that. So it kind of made her have to think like, I need to think about this. So they spend a night apart, and then she comes back to him to talk to him about it. In this conversation, she reveals that she feels like this is something that he hid, and he should have revealed this during their dating process. And then shit hits the fan, and Carlton, who is very defensive, begins to, you know, let's say play the victim, and disregard her feelings by degrading her and just, you know, pushing her away and being disrespectful. And of course, then it doesn't bring necessarily the best out of Diamond because she feels disrespected. He went crazy on her. She decided that, no, I'll just leave. I think she really wanted to work it out. She wanted to talk it through. And maybe she would have still said no, right? But he didn't leave it in a situation where he accepted responsibility. So you can tell that this isn't going to work. Now, the quick breakdown of this is that if it's important enough where you think that it might be a factor by which somebody's going to reject you on it, like something about you has to be revealed, it's important enough to share. He said, oh, it wasn't important, and that everybody in the past has been okay with it. But when you're committing to somebody, it's not just anybody. This is the person you're pledging your life to. They're pledging their life to you. And so when you are trying to go to the next level of commitment in life, be it that you're going to get engaged or you're just going to start dating somebody, you want to ask the questions that you need the answers to. And sexual history is very important. And if you're somebody who has something to share when it comes to sexual history or preferences or whatnot, that should be something that you state right away. Maybe not the first date, but definitely in the process of, no more than, let's say, 5 to 10 dates. depending on what you're doing, the activity and all that kind of stuff. So someone really knows. So they're not just getting involved with you and not knowing, right? So let's just say that whether people think right or wrong about his sexual preferences in the past, the most important takeaway of Carlton and Diamond's interaction was that honesty is the best policy. When you are talking about trust, you have to add honesty to that. You can't ask for someone's heart and hand and not give them all that they need to know so they can make a full, well-rounded decision. It doesn't make her a phobic of any kind. It doesn't make him less worthy of love. It just means that they were not equally matched as at that time. Let's just say that. I don't know if they've had future dealings with one another, but I respect her for walking away, although it was sad the way she had to. Moving on to the next couple, Kelly and Kenny. So, more or less to say that I didn't have a feeling one way or the other about this couple. I would just say that she seemed like she wanted to do something different than her previous love code. Like she was trying to, she herself in the process of dating was trying to figure out whether or not she really was feeling Kenny on, multiple levels, to which she found that she could. She really liked him as a friend, even maybe a best friend. But at the end, she found that she still needed the component of physical attraction to make a difference as to going beyond the best friend level. So her love code isn't blind. It involves other things. It needs the physical as well as the emotional component. And that's not bad. It's just that, it's just kind of sad when someone gets left at the altar, because I believe Kenny really was invested 100% to her. And I wish them both very well. But neither of them, their dynamics didn't make an impression on me beyond that. The next couple I'm going to talk about is Gegina, or G, and Damien. Now, this was like, their dynamic was all like hot and spicy and fiery, right? They instantly had sex. They instantly enjoyed one another. And then I think in Gegina's mind, it was like, oh, this is great. And I need to see if there's other things to this person. So in my opinion, even when she came off initially in their vacation time as feeling and caring to his feelings, I think she probed and prodded a little bit too much. And it was clear that she did not have good resolution tactics, in terms of language and just behavior overall, I feel. So in their honeymoon time, or so to speak, their vacation time, it popped up a little bit. And I think Damien really was all in and invested. But that carried over to them living together. And so it was hot and cold, cold and hot, spicy, not spicy, just, and the words that she was using were very harsh at times, though she was trying to be herself and very real. They weren't necessarily super loving. So, it looked like they were still going to go ahead. But at the altar, she said, I do, and he said, I don't. And I was like, whoa, I thought he was all in. And I think he was really heartbroken. But the biggest takeaway I got from their dynamics is that men don't like unnecessary fighting. It actually irritates them. They, in this course of, he did tell her that he was holding back that he was being submissive because he didn't want to lose her, but that if she didn't basically straighten her ways, that, you know, if she didn't stop this hot and cold, cold and hot love roller coaster that they were on, that he was going to walk away. And I think that was a big wake-up call for her, because he said in the show that she was really trying the last 4 days. But at the end of the day, even if you're trying, people can only look, you know, reflect back to the time that they spent together, you know, and if it doesn't feel like it's real, like it's going to be constant and real all the time, it probably, well, I'm going to guess, scared him into basically stepping away. And I do not doubt that this man loved and loves Gegina, or G. And I really believe that G really loved him. But very few men are interested in the ups and downs of, you know, what they're going to get with a woman. In other words, they're not really interested in fighting all the time, picking at things to look for faults. Was some of the tactics I felt she was using, you know, and she was showing all who she was. And that may never change, but she might find a better match of somebody who's willing to take that. But Damien's not that man. And sometimes people go to places where they don't mean the words they say, the actions that they do, you know. But if you want to at least be in a relationship with somebody, you have to treat them at all times like this is the person I have the privilege to love, and who has the privilege of loving me. Basically, there are places that I need not to go because I don't want to ever make it that easy for them to just walk out. And that's not to say that ensures a loving relationship. It just ensures that you have always at least treated the person, whether they're right or wrong, in a manner in which you would want to be treated, whether you are lovable or unlovable, you know, because there are all sides to us. So she wasn't necessarily wrong for showing all the sides, but she should have really sat him down and said, you know, I'm so sorry. And she did say she was sorry multiple times, and working to show him way before the wedding that she was better, if that makes sense. So I do wish them well. He did seem like his heart was open to maybe in the future, but I think he was right to step away. She might not be ready at this moment, and if she gives him a chance, she might be ready in the future. She might be ready in the future to get married to him, having lived a little bit more, maybe working out some of the hotness to her anger. I wish them both well. I want to talk about didn't really make an impression on me either, but they are still married, and that is Amber and Barnett. Now, just because they didn't make an impression on me doesn't mean that they're not wonderful people. So, long and short of it is just that Barnett ends up making a connection with Amber and Jessica, who I will get into later. But Amber and Barnett connect because he feels like they have a lot of similarities, and yet she's exciting for him. And you know, to me, Amber's spirit is much of a wild child. It's more of a wild child's spirit. You know, she's take it as it comes, leave it if it goes, you know, whatever will be what it will be kind of thing. And that's just the impression she gives me. But I would say that I feel like her love for sure is true for Barnett. And I mean, on the physical side, I would say, yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, I understand. But personality-wise, I was like, you know, just, he seemed a lot more reserved, and not in a way of, like, I dare say, Mario or Cameron. He doesn't feel emotionally available to me in the process of what I saw. You know, he just kept saying, I'm happy with her. I'm happy with Amber, which is great. So they did get married. And Amber was very territorial towards him in regards to when him and Jessica were in the same area, more or less. But, you know, that is to be expected, I guess, when you are in love. But anyways, like I said, I wish them well. Barnett is a hottie. Amber is a wild child. He, you know, wasn't sure about some aspects, but I feel like he wanted to live to his parents' expectations of finding everlasting love. And he felt like there was just enough with Amber, more than enough, I would say, for him to give it a go with her. So I wish him well, and that was pretty much my takeaway. I left off talking about Jessica and Mark. As I mentioned before, Jessica is 34 and Mark is 24. And during the process of dating, you know, they made a really good bond, like best friend bond. You know, they had a lot in common. They just seemed to hit it off. And, you know, Jessica was a little taken aback by the age difference, but she was still interested. But she also made a connection with Barnett. And I think she really made a deeper connection, actually, with Barnett than she did with Mark, and was really hoping that that would actually flourish. However, you know, everything came to a screeching halt after Barnett made the suggestion by way of saying, hey, you know, I think I could see myself getting married to you. And she took that as lock and key. This is happening. We're set to get engaged. Only to come to find out that he was still trying to make up his mind between her and Amber. And so, you know, they say everything happens for a reason. This kind of ticked Jessica off, and she withdrew herself from Barnett, making it very clear, or easy, I guess, for him to go with Amber. So then she focused completely on Mark and really enjoyed the fact that somebody wanted her, that it wasn't that she had to guess if he was still vacillating between two people. Mark seemed all in and only focused on Jessica. So when Mark proposed to her, she accepted. But when they met, she wasn't very thrilled, as he did not meet her physical desires. It turns out later on that Barnett is more of her physical type as opposed to Mark. But hey, Barnett is engaged to Amber, and she's supposed to be engaged to Mark. Now, during the process, she really tried to focus in on Mark, but once she met Barnett and the other couples, it was kind of like she couldn't get Barnett out of her head. And she felt like, if only, if only, if only. And that if only kind of spilled out every time she got drunk. Especially in the times where they were socializing as a group. She would kind of hint to Barnett, hey, you sure you're all happy with, you sure you're happy with Amber? Are you positive you're happy? Or, you know, I just don't want you to change your mind. Basically trying to sow seeds of doubt as to whether or not he was going to stick with Amber or maybe give her a shot. But, you know, it came to a point where it looked awfully desperate and very unbecoming of somebody who's becoming someone's wife, and also for the fact that you're on a show where, or, you know, and you're in a dynamic whereby this man is actively engaged to somebody else. He's not single. It's not like he's dating around and he's trying to figure out. He's actively engaged to somebody else, and you are actively engaged to somebody else. So it just kind of looked distasteful. And, you know, the thing I would say to anyone is that you should know your limit when it comes to alcohol, because there's a saying out there, and I'll probably list it here if I can find it online, where they say, you know, when you're drunk, you kind of speak the truth. And that's kind of what happened every time she got drunk. She would kind of, you know, all her inhibitions and, you know, I guess second thought of like, should I really say this, would go out the window, and she would just be like, it would be diarrhea of the mouth, basically. So it came to a point where Barnett had to kind of like tell her, you gotta stop, you know. And how embarrassing is it for you to be told by the man that you are interested in that, hey, I'm with someone else and you're with somebody else, like, you have to stop. So finally, she kind of took that in and she started to squarely face Mark. And they really, really tried to make it a go, right? He showed up with unconditional love and focused on her. And, you know, at one point she had even mentioned to him that she thought Barnett was hotter while she was drunk. And he still stayed, which showed like he was a true ride or die for the situation and would probably love her through anything. And he didn't want to lose her. He found himself like saying, okay, if I keep showing up as the man that she needs, she'll pick me in the end. And, you know, but during the process, also, it was revealed that, you know, she just had a lot of doubts. And at one point she said, oh, I'm uncomfortable. Or sorry, yeah, she used the word, I'm uncomfortable. And I want, you know, during the process, she took her ring off and she said, I'm uncomfortable and I'm uncomfortable. But I didn't really like that word being used because I feel like that put that on Mark as opposed to her. She was unsure and she should have just said, I'm unsure. And I just don't want to wear this ring because I'm unsure. Uncomfortable just kind of seems, I can see it from her end of saying like, you know, probably she meant unsure, but she said the word uncomfortable. But to me, there was nothing on Mark's end that was lacking. It was her and her indecisiveness and her basically pining for somebody that she thought she could have had that made her unsure. So anyways, she ends up, you know, putting the ring back on when she's told basically by Barnett, hey, you got to stop and I'm with somebody else. And she decides to face Mark, like I said, and really give it a good go. So they get back to their hometown and they get to see how each other lives. She has a house and a dog and he lives with his friends as a roommate. You know, obviously he comes with much less to the table than she does financially. I still don't think that that would have made much difference had it been Barnett. Had it been somebody that she could have physically thought was a good catch, she probably would have let a couple of things go. But I think at the end of the day, she thought, I'm not physically really attracted to him. He doesn't really come with much to the table. And for her, when it came time for the altar, you know, I do's, she said she didn't. You know, although Mark had already confessed that he was all in. You know, they asked him first and then they asked her. And, you know, she walked away from the process with no regrets. And it's clear that she gave it some good thought, you know, that maybe this wasn't just for, you know, this love isn't blind for her, as she said. It has different components that make it, you know, make it like what she wants it to be. As opposed to Mark, who showed up with unconditional love. And I'm really hoping that they both are doing well in their respective journeys of love to date and beyond. So, yeah, the whole thing is that sometimes you can really try and it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And for that, it's really important. If you're not all in emotionally, then you really have to have more, you have to really have more pros than cons. And I think in the end of the day, she had more cons than pros coming into a marriage. And so, yeah, that's it for them. And last but not least, I'd like to talk about my favorite couple, which is Cameron and Lauren. From the jump, Cameron was just like, I know Lauren's my wife. And every woman needs a man who desires her, wants to please her. Like Cameron instantly wanted to please Lauren, and told her he would take care of her. Anything less is just not worthy of being called love. Because you could see it. It wasn't something that was just up in the air and you looked for the moments that they kissed. You saw it in his eyes. You saw it in the way he talked about her when he was doing his confessionals. You know, you saw that he took everything into consideration, and you just saw his excitement for her as a human being that he could love, and he saw it as a privilege. And he even said, it just makes me grateful, just makes me thankful. And I think every woman needs a man like Cameron in terms of love. And physically, he was also good looking. So I think Lauren won the jackpot when it comes to all the girls, honestly, because He's settled, he has a job, he has a house, and he has a mindset, most importantly. He has a mindset that says, I want to be married, and I'm committed to the process, and I'm committed to the person that I'm pledging my life to. And I loved how patient and how sturdy he was. Even when Lauren was kind of, I'm not sure, but I feel like Cameron's love for her is so firm that she'll find her footing if she just trusts him and trust the love that they have between the two of them, and just be willing to work for it, you know? And not work as in labor, but work as in every day showing up to be the best person to him. So I believe that is what they, to me, personified, that they are in an equal partnership, and he's willing to be everything that he can be to make her happy. And, you know, and she's a level-headed lady who doesn't, you know, play games, isn't half in or out, and will make the ride, you know, worthwhile in terms of love and happily ever after. The journey of love, you could just see it was steady and firm and commitful to both Cameron and Lauren, and that they both kept a easy-keeled kind of romance going. But you could see the excitement and the passion between the two of them. So I'm very excited for them. I'm really wishing them the best. And I hope that they do a second season of Love is Blind. So that's my analysis. And yeah, that concludes today's classroom discussion. Well, that's it for today. Just a little fun in discussing Love is Blind, a reality TV show that helps people find true love. Thank you for attending class. Go ahead and do your homework by subscribing to this channel, commenting, and thumbs up at this video. My name is Miss A, and until next time, remember, you must be this tall to pay bills.